Hey guys, coming in smart for the season premiere of The Flash, Season 2, Episode 1, The Man Who Saved Central City. And obviously, I was really looking forward to this premiere. I mean, Season 1 was great. Honestly, Season 1 was great. I know some people didn't like it as much, but you have to, you can't deny that those last 4 episodes were amazing. Those last 4 episodes really set the tone for this show, and especially after that finale, it was pretty clear that this season was going to be nothing short of amazing, and that's exactly what this premiere was. It was perfect. I honestly thought this was a perfect premiere. If I had to pick what a perfect season premiere for The Flash would be, this would probably be it, because I honestly didn't see a single flaw in this premiere. I thought this was a really perfect episode, really set things up well for this season, and it also shows I think this season's going to be significantly darker than the first season. I mean, this episode in general was very dark, and I definitely really loved that, which made sense, especially after a very, powerful finale and so much happening in the finale. It made sense why this episode was like that. A lot of this episode, yeah, it was set up, but it made sense, and I thought it was a really nice way to start out the season, and I can't wait to see how the rest of the season's gonna go. But let's just get into this episode because it was incredible, and I absolutely loved it. So, basically, the episode, now as we know, of course, season 1 ended with that black hole. The Flash went in that black hole because he wanted to do that. So it obviously feels strange when we start with the Flash battling Captain Cold and Heatwave, and he gets rid of them just so quickly. It's all happening so fast. And then all of a sudden, Firestorm shows up to help him out, and that's happening really quick too. And we see them go back to Star Labs, where everyone's delighted by the performance. Iris and Joe are there. Cisco's telling him that it's amazing how he took two, how he used two of them. But then we realize that, and it seems pretty normal, but then we realize that Eddie's there, and so is Wells, and not, Eobard Thawne, actually Harrison Wells, and he's praising Barry, and of course this is all in Barry's imagination, and I thought this was a really great way to start the episode because it really shows what Barry wishes his life was like. In reality, he's working alone in Star Labs, and basically an alarm goes off, and he gets in a costume, heads off to work alone, and he has those monologues. Of course, we know the monologues are like, "My name is Barry Allen." Well, this time he's a lot more depressed because he talks about how he wished that he could have saved his mom, but he didn't get that opportunity to, and it didn't work out the way he wanted to, and he's just really upset, and he really feels like he failed, that he's the reason for Eddie's death. He really feels like a failure at this point. It's really sad to see that. I mean, we definitely see probably Barry in the most depressing he's ever been in this episode, which I really like seeing, especially because Barry's always so happy and so confident. To see him so depressed like this was really sad, but also very well done. So along the way we see it, there are actually signs for Flash Day celebrating the man who saved Central City, which is why the episode was called The Man Who Saved Central City. And basically, people are praising the Flash, obviously. So at a murder scene, Barry meets with Joe, and Al Rothstein supposedly has been murdered. He's a welder at the nuclear plant, and it looks like he was strangled by someone very strong and very large, but Barry's sure that this person was not Grodd. He knows for a fact that it is not Gorilla Grodd. Gorilla Grodd is gone, and we're probably not going to see Grodd again. Maybe we'll see Grodd at some point, but this is definitely not Grodd's doing who did this. So Joe asks Barry if he's going to Flash Day, where the mayor wants to give him a key to the city, but Barry is reluctant, suggesting he really doesn't deserve it. He doesn't feel like a hero at all, and I definitely thought that was very interesting that we saw that. I felt very bad for Barry in this episode, definitely, because again, he doesn't feel like this hero, even though he is one. And then we see this mysterious man who is obviously Jay Garrick. He's taking photos of Barry, and I knew it was Jay Garrick from the second we saw him. I really could tell it was going to be him, but I thought this was very well done. We don't know who this man is, and it's very mysterious. And for people who didn't know that they were introducing, Jay Garrick, I thought it was very interesting that they did that. So, at Central City PD, Cisco is helping Joe put together a task force, and we realize that Cisco is actually helping Joe in the FBI now, which I thought was really interesting. He's basically putting together tech for a task force to take down metahumans. Try as he might, though, he still can't convince Captain Singe to give him a badge, and after Singe leaves, Cisco and Joe talk about how weird Barry's being, and Joe suggests that Iris should talk him into going to Flash Day, which would make sense, because obviously they have that bond. She's his best friend, and the one thing that always seems to motivate Barry is Iris, and because no one else is getting through to him, they're thinking Iris might be the last result. So that night, Barry is using his super speed to rebuild Jitters, because as we know, Jitters is basically destroyed. One number of roof local business damage during the Singularity event, and this is something he's been doing a lot, as Iris has heard about and figured it out. And she tells him that even though Eddie had to sacrifice that day, Barry was still a hero, and he should go to the event. She says she still believes in the Flash, and Now, the thing I was looking forward to most, as I said, was the ending of the finale. I wasn't sure if we were going to get in this episode. Didn't seem like we were. But then, thank God, we did get a flashback of that. And it was as incredible as you can imagine. I was very happy that they showed that because we needed to see what happened after that. They left us on a huge cliffhanger. We needed to see what happened there. But basically, we see Barry manages to stabilize the singularity but can't close it. And Stein tells Ronnie that the only way to save the world is for Firestorm to fly up into the eye of singularity and separate. And they did indeed, go together. And Ronnie kisses Caitlin, saying he has to try. Then Firestorm merges, flies up, separates, and on his way down from the singularity, Barry manages to rescue Stein, but Ronnie, unfortunately, died in the storm. And Caitlin and Stein look around for him, but all Barry can do is tell them that he's sorry, and basically, he's gone. Ronnie died, and I thought that was really sad, but it makes sense because they did say we're getting a new Firestorm. It makes sense why, because Ronnie obviously died, and sad to see Ronnie go, but I like that they actually had the balls to do that. You can see that's another reason why Barry's so upset, not just because of Eddie's death, but now Ronnie's death as well. 2 deaths in one day, and he feels he's caused both of them, and you have to feel bad for him, definitely, after that. You have to feel bad for him. Definitely. We also learned that Caitlin is now at, I think it was called, she's not at Star Labs, she is at, a different place. I don't remember what it was called. I think it was called, I can't remember what it was called. What was it called? I can't remember. I can't remember what it was called, but it's a different labs, and basically, at the Flash Day event, Cisco's surprised to see Caitlin. You can tell they haven't seen each other in a while, and the mayor presents the city, the key to a city, to, an absent Flash. It doesn't seem like Barry's going to show up, but he does show up a little late, and shortly after he does, a man shows up, starts throwing large objects around. Cisco tries to use his boots on the metahuman, but the masked man just grows out of it, breaking the device. Before he does, though, Cisco then has a quick vision of the villain staying in a large room with blue lightning around him, and you really see how he's starting to become Vibe. I really like seeing this, because as we know, Cisco's becoming Vibe. He's starting to get these powers, as we know. Stein told him this, and you really start to see it in this episode that Cisco is definitely going to become a much bigger part of the team, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how they build this storyline. They don't go into it too much in this episode, but you definitely see how Cisco is starting to become a lot more than just the funny sidekick, which I definitely like seeing. So Barry and Joe manage to turn the man back, but not stop or capture him. Before he goes, though, he briefly unmasks, and Joe recognizes him as Al Rothstein, who supposedly just died. So obviously, they're very confused as to what's going on here. And after Rothstein makes his escape, Cisco confirms that the body remains in the coroner's office and that he wasn't even in town when the particle accelerator went off. So clearly, there's something more going on with this. There's no way that this actually is Al Rothstein. There's more going on there. So Iris comes to ask Cisco whether anything he did might have taken out a number of machines at a hospital nearby when their fight happened, and Cisco leaves to be sure he didn't do it, and Iris tells Joe that they need to stop letting Barry push them away, because obviously he didn't even listen to Iris, he didn't listen to anyone, and it just doesn't seem like it's gonna, they need to get him to not do it. They need to tell him specifically, and they need to do something that will get him to not go away. So Cisco then goes to visit Caitlin. She's working at Mercury Labs. That's what it's called. Called Mercury Labs. And basically, he wants her to rejoin Team Flash, but she's just not up for it. And it's understandable. Obviously, Ronnie just died, and she's not over his death yet. That's understandable. And he asks her instead to at least look at some evidence from the murder scene of Al Rothstein, and an ID badge that appears to have no data on it whatsoever. So that's obviously very strange. There's definitely something going on with Al Rothstein. We can't really tell what it is right now. What I do like about this, though, is that they don't really focus on Al Rothstein in this episode. Even though Al Rothstein is our metahuman here, and there's something going on with that, they don't focus on that. They focus more on Barry's inner turmoil and the inner emotion that he's going through, which I thought was a lot stronger than just focusing on the metahuman, which, like I said, Blind Spot, that's doing that. The reason that's not working is because they're focusing on that. This did not focus on that. There was a metahuman to catch, but it was mainly about just how do we get Barry back to being his normal self, because it's not working here. So basically, at the police department, a lawyer comes to see Barry, and he gives him a thumb drive with a video message from Dr. Wells and says that Barry will lose Star Labs if he doesn't watch it. And basically, Barry says that he's not going to watch it. The lawyer leaves. He doesn't know what this video means, but apparently it was his last request, and if he doesn't watch it, things could go very bad. An alarm goes off at Star Labs, attracting Barry, Iris, Stein, and Cisco, and they're figuring out how the villain's powers works when Stein names the baddie Atom Smasher, and basically The team uses traces of, and I'm assuming Stein's going to be a much bigger part of the season because he's basically a part of the team now. Like, ever since the finale, it seemed like he's part of the team, which I like seeing. Victor Garber really kills in this role, definitely. And I really would like to see him play a bigger major role like he does in this episode. So the team uses traces of radioactive energy to find Atom Smasher, and Barry suits up and heads out, leaving his communicator behind so they can't reach him, and basically they can't reach him because he wants to do this alone. And at the building where they expected to find Atom Smasher, there he is, soaking in radiation from barrels of waste, and Flash asks why he killed Rothstein and why he looks like him, and Atom Smasher tells him he wouldn't believe him, and the two fight briefly. When Barry starts to lose, Cisco manages to hack into the building system and create a diversion to get Barry away, and he runs to Star Labs and collapses, and he starts to have this memory of his childhood, which I definitely really like seeing this scene here, because Joe's trying to get Barry to eat, it's not working, and to deal with his emotions in a productive way, and just little scenes like that. I know this was a short flashback, but it was nice to see. I like seeing these flashbacks. The show doesn't do it a lot, but when they do it, it's very important, and this was a time when it was very important because he's thinking of something that Joe told him, and that Joe told him to deal with his emotion in a productive way, and the two hug, and basically Barry gains consciousness, and Joe is there, and we get this really emotional scene between Joe and Barry, which Joe and Barry's relationship is one of the best parts of this show by far. Just the bond that they have is fantastic, and I really loved seeing it in this episode, definitely. So he tells Barry that he needs to stop blaming himself for what happened, and that everything that happened was Wells' doing, and that both Eddie and Ronnie understood the choices they were making to help, and it really had nothing to do with Barry. And he tells Barry that he needs to focus his late night rebuilding on things that matter, and I really do agree. I mean, rebuilding jitters is not really something that Barry should be concerned with. That's just another thing that Barry's blaming himself for. It seems like everything that's happening he's blaming himself for, and he needs to put that all aside. He needs to focus on what the real problem is here, because that's not the problem, and focus on what really is important. And I thought that was a very powerful scene, and I definitely really love that, I have to say. So Barry heads to Mercury Labs to see Caitlin, and they have a brief conversation, and Caitlin reinforces that Barry is a hero, and I love that even though Caitlin is going through emotional turmoil like Barry is, she's still telling him that he's a hero because she knows that this isn't his fault, and I definitely really like that, because I thought she was going to be, like, mad at him or something, but she's not, because she knows that this was, just something that happened. It had nothing to do with Barry. None of this had anything to do with Barry, and he needs to not be, he needs to not beat himself up over this, and Barry seems to do this a lot, but this is something that he needs to not do. He needs to realize that this isn't his fault, that, he needs to just not be upset about this. And she tells him that she doesn't blame him for Ronnie says. She blames herself for not going away with him months before. If you remember when Ronnie first became Firestorm, he asked her if she wanted to go away and if, she wanted to go somewhere with him, but she declined, and she couldn't be around Starlight because those memories tortured her, and that's why she just couldn't do it anymore. And Barry pulls out a handkerchief for her when she starts to cry. The jump drive of Wells' message falls out, and they basically decide that they're going to watch it together because they might as well. So they have to watch it at some point. If they don't watch it, Star Labs is going to shut down, so it's better that they watch it. And I have to say, this might be the final scene we see Harrison Wells for a while, and if it is, perfect, because this scene was incredible. Basically, Wells tells Barry that he's going to give him what he wants, but it won't matter because Barry is never really happy, and he tells Barry that even though there is nothing, he is never that happy, and that he probably never will be all the way happy just because he's the Flash, and that's his job, and he takes things very personally, and he tells Barry that 14 years has been enough, and he decides to basically give Barry a video confession that he killed Nora, basically that will release Henry from prison, and I thought that was awesome that he did that. I mean, if there was anything he could have done for Barry, that's what we need to do, and I thought that was fantastic that he did that. And you're probably wondering, well, why did Wells do that? Wells' mission was remember, his mission was to weaken Barry and basically kill him. That's what he wanted to do. But obviously, he knew that things had gone wrong. If things did go wrong, he wanted to make things right because he knew that that's what Barry would have wanted. And since Barry won, he probably was just like, fuck it, I'm going to do this anyway. And obviously, he's not alive anymore, so there's really nothing bad that can come out of that for him. So Barry calls Joe, tells him to assemble Team Flash's star, and this is really what motivates Barry. This right here is what motivates Barry, and I thought this was very strong, and I like that something motivated Barry. I was thinking this whole episode Barry was going to be down in the dumps, but this is really what gets him motivated, because he realizes that Wells did indeed confess to, killing Nora, and now Henry is free from jail. And Barry calls Joe, tells him to assemble Team Flash at Star shortly. After that, Joe's on the phone with the district attorney, who thinks it's enough to get Henry out of jail, and basically Henry's coming out of jail, which was awesome. I love that we saw that. So Barry turns to the team, asking them how to deal with Atom Smasher, and Caitlin suggests that they try to overload Atom Smasher with radiation, and basically in order to lure him out, Team Flash shines a bat signal style light against the clouds, and Barry runs and Atom Smasher chases. Eventually they come to a facility where Barry lures Atom Smasher into a radiation chamber, then blows past him and out of the Reacher core as Cisco fills it, and Atom Smasher can't absorb all the radiation, eventually collapses, now at normal size, which is a lot easier for Barry to handle, and Barry goes in to check on him, apologizing for the seemingly lethal force, and Atom Smasher tells him that someone named Zoom had sent him after Barry, promising to let him go home if he killed the Flash. And if you guys don't know, they are introducing the multiverse this season. So I'm thinking that Atom Smasher is from the multiverse and basically was sent out by Zoom, obviously. So he succumbs to the radiation, and I thought that was a very great scene because it really showed that we're going to be introduced to the multiverse, and they're definitely going to get into that. Now, we don't fully get into that till next week. Next week's really when we're going to start to get into that, but I definitely really love that. I thought that was a very, very great scene. So at Iron Heights, Barry walks Henry to the car. His father is now a free man, and it's just such a victory. You see how happy Henry is. They head home, and they're having a whole welcome party for him, and Cisco even gets his honorary badge before Stein makes a very touching toast, and he talks about, and I really like what Stein says. He says the one word that they need to focus on is forward. They all need to move forward. They've all have had things that have caused them pain, and they just need to move on from it. They need to put it all aside and just move forward. And I honestly think that at the end of the day, that probably is the best thing that they can do, because yeah, they are going through a lot of shit. There has been a lot that's happened to them, but the best thing to do is for them to move forward, and I definitely really like that scene. And like I said, I really hope Professor Stein becomes a much bigger part of the show, because he's really doing a great job, I have to say. So the joy is short-lived because Henry tells Barry, because Barry, is talking about how him and Iris have rented an apartment for Henry if he wants to stick around. And Barry starts to realize that Henry actually doesn't plan on sticking around. He tells Barry that he plans to leave town rather than trying to resume his life in Central City. And I like what he tells Barry. He tells Barry that he says the Team Flash needs Barry. They're his family now, and that even though he is his family, they're his family too. And the city needs the Flash, not Henry Allen's son, and that is true. And especially, this has really put Henry full circle, because if you remember last season, he really wasn't sure if Barry should be doing this, and he was very worried for Barry, obviously. And now telling Barry that you need to be the Flash, and you need to do this over helping me, it's just such a full circle moment. I absolutely love that. I love that he said to him that he needs to do that, because yeah, he does kind of need to put all that aside, and I'm sure we'll see Henry again, and Henry says that when he needs him, he will be there. I thought that was a great scene, and I definitely really love that. So back at start next day, Barry has put Henry on a train, comes to check in with the team. Cisco has upgraded the suits, and Caitlin brags about the new security system and the fact that people will finally stop dropping in unexpectedly. Which is proven wrong immediately when we see a man coming in, and he says, "You don't know me, but I know you," and he says that his world is in danger, and he says his name is Jay Garrick. Like I said, that was Jay Garrick that we were introduced to, and that is how this episode ends, and I thought that was awesome. If you guys don't know, Jay Garrick is from the multiverse. He is another Flash from an alternate dimension, and that's how he knows the Flash, if you guys didn't know that, which I'm pretty sure you guys know because they've talked about it so much during, like, Comic-Con and things like that. That was an awesome cliffhanger, though. I love where that's going, because next week we're going to find out more about Jay Garrick, find out why he's there, find out really what's going on and why Zoom is after them and really what's going on. That's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that. But what an incredible premiere this was. Seriously, guys, this was a great premiere. It really had everything I love in a Flash episode. It was funny. Cisco was definitely just hilarious in this episode, like I said. I loved his little bazooka thing. That was definitely very funny. I really loved I really loved the emotion we got from Barry, and just the overall plot that we got in this episode was very powerful, and I definitely really loved it. So let's talk about this as a whole. What exactly is going on here? Is Barry going to trust Jay Garrick? I don't think he's going to trust him at first, but this is a guy that clearly knows what he's talking about. I think Barry's eventually going to realize that, and I think it's going to be something where he's not sure if he can trust him, but then he's going to realize that they have to trust him, because if they don't, they could end up, dying or something, and he obviously doesn't want to die, so that's not going to be good if they die, so he's probably should listen to him. It's probably just the right thing to do to listen to Jay, because he knows what he's talking about. So there's that. We'll have to see where that goes. But let's talk about Cisco overall. We can tell that Cisco is definitely starting to get these vibe powers, and he definitely is starting to use them, and I definitely am interested in seeing where that's going to go. I really like seeing Cisco becoming the vibe. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I definitely really like seeing that. Rothstein, the person that was Rothstein, that was impersonating him, is he also from the multiverse? Because obviously we know this whole storyline has to do with Professor Zoom. We saw we see in the description next week, it says, it's all about Zoom and everything, and I definitely feel that Rothstein, that character is connected to Zoom, and he was there for a specific reason, and since that didn't work out, now Jay Garrick is going there because he knows that the Flash is still alive, and obviously wants to protect him. So that's gonna be interesting to see where that goes. We don't really know what Jay Garrick's agenda is yet, but all we know is that he knows that his world's in danger, and that's definitely gonna be very interesting to see what happens in terms of that. That definitely I'm looking forward to. Caitlin working at Mercury Labs was great, but I like that she is over Ronnie's death. Who is going to be the new Firestorm? We know there's going to be a new one, and they are going to replace Ronnie. You'll never probably be able to replace Ronnie, but they are going to get a new Firestorm. We'll have to see who that's going to be, because that's going to be very interesting to see who the new Firestorm ends up being, because we don't know who that's going to be yet, and I'm looking forward to seeing who that new Firestorm is going to be, because obviously there's going to be a new one. I like that we got finally the conclusion of Henry from prison, because that's something that we just needed to get. We need to get that storyline concluded. That was the only way to get Barry back to his his normal self, back to his heroic self. And I think Barry is realizing that this isn't his fault now, and I definitely really like that. I still feel he's going to be haunted by Eddie's death, and he's still going to keep thinking about it. But he now is, I think, a lot more hopeful, because his dad was released, and that was kind of like the piece of the puzzle that needed to be solved, and that's kind of why Barry wasn't satisfied, because he wanted to make sure that his parents, that his father wasn't, released from prison, because he didn't do anything, and I thought that was really great, and I definitely really love that. Also, Professor Stein, they really need to make Professor Stein a main character, because I think he's doing a very good job in this show, and I'd really like to see Victor Garber continue to get the amazing scenes that he gets, because he really is incredible, I have to say. Definitely really like that. I also like that there's really nothing romantic going on between Barry and Iris right now, because there's really no time for it, honestly. Barry is not in a position right now where he should be dating. He's all very vulnerable, he's very upset over what happened, and you can just tell that dating is not really on his mind at this point, which is understandable. I can understand totally why he's not really thinking about dating. How could you think about dating after a tragedy like that happened? It's not something that you probably think about, and I'm happy that they didn't try to go there. I know some people are probably like, oh, well, why didn't they? Because it's not the time right now, okay? I think Iris knows it's not the time, and Barry knows that too. And I heard we're going to see a much more different side of Iris this season, a lot more of an independent side, and that badass side of Iris that I've been telling you guys we're going to see is coming this season. I've heard Iris going to be a completely different character, and I can't wait to see how that turns out. But overall, guys, an amazing premiere. Absolutely loved it. Like I said, it really was a perfect premiere. If I had to pick the definition of perfect premiere, this would definitely be it. Let me know what you guys thought of this premiere overall. I thought it was honestly pretty perfect, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.